Hello everyone. So let me introduce our guest speaker, Dr. K.V. Patel, for today's talk. So Dr. Patel is veterinarian basically by profession. He has obtained his BVSc and MVSc degree from the College of Veterinary Science and Animal Husbandry, Anand, Gujarat. He was one of the founder member of the LASA India. LASA is the Laboratory Animal Scientists Association. He is also the council member of the ELAC International. Dr. Patel is well versed with the GLP practices as well as GMP practices, transgenic technologies, rodent breedings, ELAC International procedure, and other related things related to laboratory animal science. Currently, he is working with Institute of Liver and Biliary Sciences, ILBS, as Chief Veterinary Officer. Today, he is going to talk on the ethics in the laboratory animal science or research. So, welcome you, sir, to the beautiful campus of ICGD. Over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Am I audible clearly? So, good afternoon to the participants from New Delhi, and I have been told that there are some participants from here also. So, to them, good morning. Am I right? Yeah. Okay. So, I would like to first say my thanks to Dr. Shivam for inviting me to interact with you here in Delhi participants as well as in Line participants or in Delhi participants. So, I would like to say thank you as well, because without participants this talk will not happen. Okay. So, I would like to acknowledge my institute. I would like to start in a reverse way, acknowledgement first, because I come to forget at the end. So, am I heard? Okay, so this is the title of my talk. So, when ethics comes, it becomes a little more complex and elaborative. But like I have been asked to focus more on how to feel the proposal for getting experimental things clear from the ethics community. But to justify the topic, I have divided this way. So we will first talk about what's animal research and why it is needed, what's ethics and why to worry about ethics at all. We'll just touch upon global laws, regulations, then ELAC International. We know the buzzwords 3 R's. In Indian context, they have improved to increase to 4 or 5 R's. Then we'll touch upon the Indian regulatory framework, because I'm seeing many participants here and they are going to use animals here. And then we will go to the main topic of the talk, like how to fill a Form B proposal. And then after going everything, we have some important reminders, so you will remember them during your research work. So let's begin. What's animal research? So basically, animal research is science, means you have your hypothesis or your questions to be addressed. You have done everything with the in vitro stuff, and now you want to test it. So that's the science part. Then law. When you want to work with animals, there will be some regulations. So that's the law. And when you are working with living creatures, then there is ethics involved. So we will know and we will understand, we will interact to see what is ethics. So, why animal research at all needed? Can we do without? And we are seeing these days in Europe and in America, they are working toward it. They have set their milestone also to by 2020 this, 2035 or 45, we will be doing research without animals. But still, we are thinking that it's a biology, it's a system, animals are needed. So, if we stop animal research, who will stop this real clear? And this another posters, they justifies that research in animal is not going to end immediately or very soon. But like everybody putting efforts to get out of it. And can we do without animal research? So the next thing is, what's the ethics? When we have to use animal, ethics paradigm is very important. Okay, to just understand ethics in one slide, I would like to say, it's a morality, what is right, what is wrong. To identify, differentiate between right and wrong, that's called the ethics or our moral. So now, in the context of animal research, what questions we are asking? When the needs of animals and humans come into conflict, which takes precedence? When this question we need to ask, that's called an ethical paradigm. Same way, other questions we would like to answer this way. Should animals be used for research or not? So these two questions, when we would like to answer it, we have kind of our moral come in between, and individual will decide it differently. And that is called ethics. So today, there exists a wide spectrum of view on the subject ranging from, there are two sides. One extreme is animal right people. You can't use the animal. Animals have a right and they have their own life. You can't use them for your own benefit. That's one extreme. Another extreme is animals only as a resource to be exploited. Like other side extreme, people are thinking animals is a means. You can use it for your benefit, for humanity benefit. Exploit that resource available. These are the two extremes. And when two extremes are there, what happens? There's a conflict and fight. They don't agree to. Okay? So now, to make them agree, that is third things coming up is like balance it. To balance it, all of these viewpoints have contributed to the development of ethical principles of animal use. Both the parties, they do not agree to. So now, they have found some mutual ground. Okay, you can use it, but by following these principles. So now, those are the principles comes into animal welfare. So you consider these are the two parties. This right people, Tommy is telling, I believe using animals for our benefit is wrong. And then under is Sally welfare, she is telling, I believe all animals should be treated humanly. You can use it, but treat them humanely. So when these things came in picture, then ethical principles born into. So now we are asking question ourselves, why worry about ethics? Because animal welfare, human treatment of animals is needed. That's why ethics is in place. So first thing is working with animals is a privilege. As we are earning the leaves, those leaves are called earned leave or privileged leave. What we need to do to earn those leaves? First, we need to attend an office or a duty for some period, then only we will earn. 1 leave or 1.5 leave after doing a duty for 30 days. Am I right? So, first duty come, then privilege. So, that's the first thing. Working with animals is a privilege, not our right. So, we have to earn it. Second, it is necessary to become a competent researcher. Means training and having a competency, whatever you are going to do with the animals is important. And third thing, treating animals humanely and with care is the ethical way to go forward. So when we comply with these things, then right people, animal right activists, they become little down-toned. And then we will have an ethical way of using the animals. Now I'm switching a gear toward the global regulations. Okay, so we have seen that science, laws, and ethics. So we have talked first about ethics. Science, we are scientists, so it is clear, no need to talk about. Okay, now I'm just taking you through, because there's an international audience, I would like to take you through in a couple of slides how the international law frameworks working around to use the animals. So first let's go to USA. They have Animal Welfare Act. It is administered through USDA. Okay, and just to apprise you, in Animal Welfare Act, they include all vertebrates, but they exclude purpose-bred mouse, and rats and birds. So they are the major portion of animals used for the research. Correct? So they have been excluded. They are not being covered. So in USA, another agency is there, PHS policy, means Public Health and Safety Policy, that has been administered by NIH or LAW, Office of Laboratory Animal Welfare. They administer and ensure that PHS is followed by the institute, and especially the institute, those which are using the government grants, government funding, public money. So they have to comply with this PHS policy. And this PHS policy, for that, the main document is considered ELAR Guide. The full name is the Guide for Care and Use of Laboratory Animals. That's the ELAR Guide. So this is the framework in USA around animal research. Now going to Europe, there were many countries before 1986. There were many scattered regulations. It becoming EU, and then they have now Directive 2010-63 EU, and then they follow ETS 123. Okay, and this has been made on the basis of 3 R's, which we'll see what are the 3 R's. Again, both the parties, different angles, so they have to derive the ethical principles, and ethical principles started from 3 R's. So now, Europe, USA, and now see the global perspective. So, ELAC is an organization, it's a non-profit organization. They contribute in animal welfare by accrediting the institute, certifying the institute. They evaluate as a third party their program, and they provide their valuable inputs to improvise their program, their animal welfare or human treatment of animals. So ELAC has almost 1,060 accredited institutes all across the world, and that is from 50 different countries, and all different segments like government, private, then pharmaceutical companies, CROs, then universities, then hospitals, they are accredited into it. So what is ELAC? This non-profit organization, their vision is this: a world where excellence in animal welfare and science converge. So they work for that through making institutes accredited. It is non-profit organization. They do not make their own rules and regulations. They follow these standards. And as we discussed, this is a European standard. This is all across following, including India also. Some of the institutes they are following. And this is again US standard. So depending on the country, they consider country law first. And then they want to institute of those countries wanted to take a next level of animal welfare or human care, then they have to follow these 3 principles which are applicable to them. These 3 primary standards ELAC is using. Now going little deeper into the principles, ethical principles. 2 parties have a conflict. Now what kind of ethical principles we have come out? So one extreme party has been agreeing to it. So the principles of 3 R's has been given by these 2 gentlemen in 1959. But they become popular after, I can say, 3-4 decades. Until then they were dormant. They have not been accepted by GLOBE. And then later on, GLOBE has considered, because these are important, and one by one, different regulators and different agencies and scientific community accepted them. And now we will talk about those principles. 3 R's. How many of you are aware with the 3 R's? What are those 3 R's? Anybody has any idea? First one is appearing here. Okay, I will take you through. There are three R's. First is replacement, second is reduction, and third one is refinement. These are the 3 basic R's. Russell and Burst, they have coined this. Now let's understand what is replacement. Word itself is very clear. What is replacement? What we would like to replace? Animal use we would like to replace. So first principle says, replace animal use. Wherever possible, you should not use animal. So Replacement refers to the methods that substitute for a whole animal. That's called a complete replacement. And that could be some partial kind of replacement where you use the lower sentience of animals. Okay? So that is called a partial kind of replacement. But when we have started our talk and discussion this way, it is very difficult to replace animal completely. Correct? It will be difficult for us to get the answers of our hypothesis or questions, how it works in biology, in a full system. So we believe that that is required. So for that case, there are barriers. So here some of the barriers are written, some are the scientific barrier and some of the non-scientific barrier. But bottom line is, one has to practice first replacement as far as possible. If there are alternatives available, we have to try the alternatives. And to give you one example, pyrogen testing. Okay, pyrogen testing is done in rabbit. What is pyrogen testing? When you have a sterile formulation, giving it to the animals, if it contains the pyrogen, animal's body temperature will increase. And like 5-6 years before, we were believing that that is the only way to know. But now, as an alternative, they have come out with a test. And now that test is called a LAL test, and it is acceptable by regulators. So still, regulators and users, they are coining it out. So still, some regulators want pyrogen test, so it is there. Where it is not mandated, people are using LAL test. So that's how we are moving toward the replacement. So that's the first principle of a replacement. Give you another example. Earlier days, we used to use a frog for dissection. Now, like simulations, we have videos available. Like this is one thing available, Digital Frog 2.5. Okay, in that, you need not have to do the research, dissections on a live frog, but you can learn not simulate, but you can learn through this digital frog. This is called your replacement. The second principle is reduction. So how the number of animals can be reduced in a experimentation or animal usage, animal research. So reduction, there are many ways to reduce the animal. One is better control of a variations. So whatever variations are there, so it's a biological system. When your system is controlled, you will have less variations, higher significance, so you need less number of animals. Then better statistical analysis. So first, before starting an experiment, identify right statistical tool and your significance needed. So if you apply statistics rightly, then your animals may reduce. And you will reduce means not always reduce, take the optimum. Okay? Then third one is data sharing to prevent unnecessary duplication of experiment. So do the literature search first properly by using different search engine. So you are not unnecessarily duplicating. So you are reducing the animal usage. And final is using non-animal methods as adjunct. Means with the animal method. Like you have 5-6 experiments and different hypotheses. So some of the hypotheses might be tested first into the in vitro way. And then remaining you test it in the animals. That's how also as adjunct method also you can reduce it. Now the main thing is too much animal is a wastage of those number which are more than needed. Where that's the first thing. If you are using too much, means whatever extra you have used, that is a problem. Okay, that got wasted. But second part is very important. Too less is a complete wastage of the animal. So please keep in mind, if your experiment to get a statistical significance, if you need 6 animals per group, but on the basis of this principle, you want to reduce it and without giving any scientific thought, you have reduced to 4, then those 4 has been completely wasted. Okay, that's what point I want to derive. Too many is a wastage, whatever extra you have used. Too less is a complete wastage. So you need to balance it. Use proper tool and then reduce the animal. Then finally is refinement. Reduction and refinement go hand in hand. So refinement is whatever procedures you are doing with the animals. You refine in such a way so you use a less painful procedures. And these are the different ways to do it. like husbandry needs as per the species requirement, refining the experimental procedure, define the management of pain, refining the endpoints. Whatever at the end of experiments, those endpoints are also can be refined. And you use many other tools where you inflict the less pain and distress to the animals. At the same time, you achieve the objective of your experiment. This is called refinement. So, are the 3 R's clear to you? Reduction, first is replacement, reduction and refinement. And this is one more example, like you use the proper imaging tool rather than euthanizing animal and requiring more animals to use it. You refine the procedure so there will be less pain to, and you get whatever research data you need it, you will get it through an imaging tool. And animal is not dying. So you can have a different time point, or you can have the same animal to be used for a different time points. So this is about 3 R's, and in Indian context, we have one more R is the rehabilitation. Now we have guideline also available. Okay, when you are using larger animal like dog, sheep, goat, pig, non-human primate or horse, means larger than the lagomorphs, rabbit, then you have to practice the rehabilitation. So as long as your experiment is over, animal is able to live a healthy life, then you cannot terminate them. And that cost, Indian regulations say that cost you need to build into your research cost. Okay, so that is the 4th R. And like I was thinking, why we are thinking this way? Okay, rehabilitation and all those things. So again, going back to our moral, ethics. Our moral started from Gautam Buddha, Mahavir Swami, 5th and 6th century before the Christ. We are all caring and loving people, and we love animals. We do not want to euthanize it, so we would like to keep them for their healthy life. So that's how this principle, this moral and ethics play because of that geography also. So this is the 4th principle involved, incorporated. Yeah, please. Leaving them to zoo is considered a rehabilitation, but like how many zoo we have and how many animals we can rehabilitate. So government has figured out the mechanism is there are animal welfare organizations, okay, and if the animal is wild, we can approach to the wildlife sanctuaries, not in the zoo, because they would like to put them back into the natural environment and they can live their healthy life. So zoo is not the exclusion. Zoo can also be used, but in regulation it has been defined that way. You can use the animal welfare organizations, NGOs, and give your animals to them, or a shelter. Then those shelters are registered with the government authorities, so they can take care of the rest of the life of the animals, and the person or the institute who is giving these animals, they have to bear the minimum cost. Okay, so rehabilitation is costly affair. That's why the experimentation with large animals is much costlier, because rehabilitation cost also you need to build in. And that's why we are saying across the world also, like NHP, non-human primate rehabilitation is must. So non-human primate research is restricted. And you say, like countries like the USA and UK, they have completely banned the research on apes, like chimpanzee. So still there are some in USA, but like it's like very minimum and they are banned. So final one is responsibility as well. That is the 5th R. Like we are responsible to use animals in an ethical way. So now another ethical thing I like is culture of care. Okay. So how do we care our animal? So here it is said that not only reducing or minimizing pain and distress, you keep the animal well-being at the best level possible. Not only minimizing the distress and pain. So that's how the culture of care comes. A culture of care is one of demonstrated caring and respectful attitude and behavior towards the animal and encourages acceptance of responsibility and accountability in all respects of animal care and use. So now one step further, like to understand and challenge. So this is the culture of challenge. So what happened in our routine life? Why are you doing this thing this way? Then we answer that because we have always done it that way. So in animal experimentation, when you have this kind of paradigm, if the institute is imbibing a culture of change, then that is the opportunity. When you think that we are doing since many years this way, then in many years things have changed drastically a lot because of science and other things. So that thing could be done in a different way. That's called a culture of change, which could inflict less pain and distress to the animal. Animal well-being will be improved, and in turn, whatever data you will get, that data will be more valid, and your research would be more sound. So now, coming to the Indian regulatory framework. So this is how the Indian regulatory framework. We have 1960, we have promulgated this Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960. In that, there is a provision for constituting one committee, and objective is same all across the world, to prevent the infliction of unnecessary pain or suffering of animal. This law, this act comprising all the animals, and focus is more on the large animal or domestic animals or production animals. So now in that, there is a provision for experimental animal which got activated very lately. I can say it. I could come to know when I started my career in 1998, when Maneka Gandhi came into picture, and then CPCSA. From this provision of this act, they have formulated a CPCSA, and then that statutory body become very active, and they have played an important role in making that ethical part, uplifting that ethical part. Those scientists had a problem, but after 2.5 decades, we are seeing that there is a lot of improvement. Okay, so that's how the journey in India. So recently, the CPCSA name has been changed. The committee name is Committee for the Control and Supervision of Experiments on Animals, and that's a central statutory committee that remains in Delhi. Unfortunately, fortunately, we are in Delhi, but there are so many institutes in the country, so those are required to be monitored. So to monitor that, at institute level, they mandated to have one committee. That is called Institutional Animal Ethics Committee. In short, it is known as IAEC. Equivalent to that in abroad, in USA, that is called ICOC, Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, they tell. So ICOC, IAEC, both are synonymous, and this committee in India having 3 to 4 representatives from Government of India, from CCSA. So as an external party, internal people will have always a conflict of interest. We wanted research to be going and our institute to be progressing. So we may compromise with the animal ethical principles, where animal right people has agreed to, okay, you can use it by following this ethical principle. We may compromise. And CCSA is a regulatory statutory body. They need to get these things followed. So they have represented 3 to 4 individuals in the committee, and this is what the committee is. So committee has first 6 these members, except this the initial 5 members, these 2 scientists, a veterinarian, scientist in charge, a scientist from outside. This until 4, this 5 members, because these are 2, they are from the institute. And remaining this 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, these are the nominated members. So 3 members, one is scientist from outside the institute, socially aware nominee, and CPCSA nominee. These 3 persons are mandatory into the committee, and this link nominee when this nominee is not available. Sorry, I have still used the older nomenclature. So basically, this committee comprising a socially aware member, then scientists who can evaluate your science with external perspective, then the nominee who can administer the CCSA, whatever regulations are there, and scientists of an institute, they will present whatever research they want to do. So this committee is a breach giving approval to conduct the animals. So here, this is the main guideline followed for India. And I have, besides written this guideline, tested this guideline also. This is what I was telling, ILAR guide for the care and use of laboratory animals. So this guide also been followed in India because as on date, there are 29 institutes, industry organizations, they have been certified or accredited with ILAR. So they are using both the guidelines. They aim to have their institute animal research program really ethical and whatever research data they are producing acceptable worldwide. And ILAR tags give the confidence to the research community. To give you the example, you are a scientist referring one publication from China which has an extraordinary finding which is not usual, you are not expecting. But it is in your line, you are really interested to know whether this thing happens really. It's really crazy, great. But when the name of China will come, you may be skeptical. Okay, animal research, animal study, they might have done properly or not. But like in that publication, if that institute has written ILAR accredited facility, they have done animal research, then yours or global public or community's confidence will increase. Okay, they would be following this guide. Means their animal care and use program would be up to that standard, so that data could be trusted. And then if you check, then you will find, okay, this institute and this group has published many good publications. And that's how the scientist trust will build, increase. And same way public, those who are giving public money, means funding. So public will also be get ensured, okay, this institute, ILAR accredited, means they are taking proper care. So money is used for a right reason with the right way. So ILAR gives this kind of confidence, and it is a third party, voluntary. So it has no obligations to the institute, so no conflict of interest. That's how ILAR people are going for. Now coming into like IAC committee we have discussed, now how to get the approval. So this is the website, everybody should know the website. Just put a CPCSCA or Committee for the Control and Supervision of Experiment, Google it, you will find this website. And that's why purposefully I have put this snapshot here. And then go into the forms, you will find revised Form B for permissions of the animal experimentation. So now, when you need to conduct an experiment, then first step for you is to fill this form, submit it to the IAC. So now, basic crux of the talk is how to fill that form. So now the question is, how many of you have seen that form? Nobody has seen? Okay, at least one person is there. She has seen. So if you would have seen, then the task would have been quite easy. But now, as you have not seen, I will first show the form. So until this things start working, I'll keep talking. So basically this form has questions. So first is a section 1. In section 1, there are administrative details. So I think Dr. Shivam, whenever he circulates that form, basic administrative details like what is your organization's, I need my presentation also back up to that. So this is how the forms look like, PDF. So the first question is the title of your research project. So you have to mention the title very crisp and clear so people can understand it. Then who all are the PIs? Okay, PI is the responsible person and owner of the protocol. So if anything goes wrong with the animals, whatever being used and required to be used for the experimentation under this protocol, PI is accountable, because at the end of the form, there is a declaration, and there are 13, 14 points where PI signs and declare it. Okay, this thing I will follow it. So PI is main responsible person. No problem. So after PI, there will be a people, those who are conducting the experiment, because PI may not conduct the experiment. PI sits and plan full research proposal. Students and postdoc or other people, they do. When there is a difficult thing, he has expertise, he also pitch in. Correct? So, then who all other people are involved, that also you have to list. And after listing that, only this many individuals can perform the experiment into that project. Okay, the next thing will come is the validity of project. From when you want to start, when you want to end. So clearly specified. IAC generally gives the permission for 3 years in principle, and then every year they want to know how the progress is happening. Then next question comes, is this project has the funding? So you have to mention your funding. If funding is available, then only they will give the permission, or else they will give the provisional permission. So sometimes this is like the chicken and egg kind of thing. Which one is first? Because investigator PI wants that you give us an approval, that I need to submit it to the funding agency, then only I will get a grant. So IAC will give the permission, but that's a provisional permission. You can start your experiment after that. Then next thing, I remember somehow, so next thing, that's fine. So next question is, describe your proposal. Okay, what is your proposal, what you are going to do. So over there, you have to explain what you are going to do. And then the next section is, how many number of animals, species, age, facts, all details. And then a couple of more questions, why you want this species? Okay, why so many number of animals? So this kind of questions are there. Then after that, what are you exactly going to do with the animals? Because committee want to know. For example, your experiment involves a surgery. So you need to explain in detail surgery. If surgery is involved, you need to explain in detail about anesthesia, analgesia, and competency of a person also. If, for example, in that group, the person is like students or PI, none of them, they are competent enough. But then also they want to do. So they will invite veterinarian into it. And veterinarian will help, they will be getting trained, and then they will do the study. The next sections will come is, that I'm just able to recollect the important points of the form, and that is, if you are required to use any hazardous agent. Let's say, you would like to use a BSL-3 agent into the animals. So BSL-3 agent means, what is the requirement for BSL-3? You need to have a which committee approval? Biosafety Committee. Okay, Institutional Biosafety Committee. IBSC. So Dr. Dheeraj Kumar, you have to go to him. And then that committee will give approval. So this committee is not competent to evaluate. So that committee, this committee will ask the permission of that committee. Right? So, I move to the last only. So, this is what describe, point number 6, describe details of your study plan. To justify the use of animals, we have discussed, and this were the animal detail, then rationale for animal usage. So, these are the point number 8, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. These are the different questions you need to answer it. So, committee will have a confidence that you are requiring animal for right reason. And here there are important questions like, are similar, point number E, are similar experiment conducted in the past in your establishment or some other establishment? You have to basically prove that this experiment is needed. We have evaluated all research or evidence is available. Nobody has done this experiment. Even if they have done, this is required to be replicated because my compound is different, my hypothesis is little different, I have this thing different. That's how you have to convince it, write it in that way. Okay? Then describe the procedures we were talking. With animal, what are you going to do? Are you going to withdraw blood? Are you going to euthanize animal, taking out the things? Okay? How are you going to give your test hypothesis, means test substance? Everything has to be written here. So committee will know what are you going to do with the animal. Surgery, I have explained point 11. Point 10. Does the protocol prohibit the use of anesthesia analgesia? What is anesthesia analgesia? What anesthesia and analgesia do? Very correct. Reducing the pain and distress you have to do. But there are some kind of study where you cannot give, or else your study result will be affected. So this questions for that. If you are studying pain, not all pain study, but when you are studying pain, you cannot give pain relieving medication. Okay? This is what our understanding. But there are pain related study, there are different kind of analgesics developed, they act through different receptors and you may give. And your study may not be affected. So you need to evaluate that and answer this question. Is your study prohibit the use of anesthesia and analgesia? If you are writing yes, then committee's ear will be standing. Why? And then responsibility is yours to justify why you can't give it. Then they will ask, you can't give it, then what else you can give or what else you can do so animal pain and distress will be relieved. Then you will try some husbandry mechanism. Over there comes the non-pharmacological means of relieving pain and distress. Okay? For example, you are giving a STZ, streptozotocin, in the paw. So animal is in pain. You can't give pain relieving medication because you are studying your medication. That test substance is also you are testing for pain relieving. So you can't give that. So what you can do is, you are providing a very soft bedding. So animal will be really at comfort. So this kind of non-pharmacological means. So this question is very important and you have to answer it properly. If you are answering first, yes, I cannot give medications pain relieving, then you have to justify it more. Then 11 number, I have already explained all surgery procedure in detail, and then competency of people. Then describe the post-experimental procedure. So as I was telling, in Indian context, scope of for a reuse also they have written and rehabilitation also written. This is a statutory form, you cannot change it. You can write yes or no. Okay? So here, this is very important. Describe the method of euthanasia. And euthanasia, you will be going to study further in your course curriculum that how the euthanasia will be done. There are different methods of euthanasia. So you have to write the correct method in detail. So the IAC will have a confidence that you are going to follow the proper euthanasia method. For example, if you are writing that I cannot use the CO2 euthanasia or higher dose of anesthesia, I need to use a physical method of euthanasia, then IAC would like to know why. And then again the same analogy, I am studying the receptor, pain receptors, they are located in the brain, I cannot give analgesia, CO2 will disturb this, blah blah blah. You have to explain. If that's the right reason, committee will grant you the permission and then committee will ask you. What they will ask? Are you competent to do it? In your protocol, whatever people you have listed, anyone is competent. So training back is very important. Okay, so committee will see the training as well. So this is how you need to fill that form. And transportations, you need not have to worry too much about because institute or veterinarian and animal facility will take care of it. 14 number point we have already discussed, like we were talking about microorganism, then DNA manipulations, any hazardous chemicals you are using with the animals, we need to see. Overshooting the time? Yeah. So this is what the declaration I was talking about. So investigator gives this declarations. In that, one point is very important. That is like, I will maintain the account of animal use. I am not able to find it out hurriedly, but like, there is one point. I certify that I will ensure the rehabilitation 7. It's written Form D. So as like in a bank account, we deposit money and then use it. Every money withdrawn has the entry to it. Okay? Same way, this is like IAC has given approval for 100 animals. That is your bank account started. Then you have to maintain the account. I have used 10 animals on this day, that purpose. Another 10 animals on this day. That is called Form D, your account of animal usage. Okay, so with this background, I will go back to my presentation. So when you give this submitted proposal to the IAC, what will happen? There could be 3 outputs. And remember very well, veterinarian is always available for help. When you fill this form, your study will be very different. Your lab has never done this kind of study. And you are required to create a pain or some new studies. Then consult a veterinarian. They will help you to fill the form correctly so your project get approved. There are 3 outcomes: approved, revise and reject. Approved, we are happy. For small animal, we directly go and start the experiment. Okay? We don't have a large animal at ICGB, so I will not talk about in the interest of time. Let's say IAC has told you revise. Your proposal is not approved. Reject, it is straightforward. Okay. You can't do anything, you have to submit a new proposal. But like revise, you have a scope. So major revision, minor revision. If there is a minor revision like typo error and you have copied paste some, but you know right thing, you have presented a right thing, committee is okay, but they are just asking to correct it and you have corrected, your project is through. Again, you can, small animal, so you can start your experiment. But if it is a major, you discuss with veterinarian, put these things and committee will say, no, it's a major modification, we'll review in the next meeting. So you submit in the next meeting, we'll review it and then give it. That's kind of very major. They have found many flaws, but they agreed with your hypothesis. So they will suggest the major modification, but we'll review it and give it. And when small minor modification is there, then you correct, give it to member secretary, we will approve it. Okay, so this is the flow through. Now, I will explain you until you people will say me know what kind of error investigators makes it when filling this form. So, I have explained you the background. Now, we will see what is the good example, what is the bad example of answering that question specific, and what is the right example, how the good answer will look. I think that will make you more sense. I have many examples, but in the interest of time, you have to stop me. Okay, these are rules and regulations we are following. This we are knowing. IBSC we have discussed, but this is the one reference. I was talking about the guide. If you want to follow the better human care, and for euthanasia, American Veterinary Medical Association guideline, every few years they are revising. So latest guideline available 2021, that you have to follow for your euthanasia. So now, I am going to list out the common concerns when you submit your form B or protocol proposal to IAC, what they found. IAC, they are finding this kind of concern. So first is, scientific jargon is not always easy to understand because one member in the committee is socially aware member. He or she may not be a scientist. So, your first para, question number 6, study plan, where you are explaining, that should generate the interest. Okay? And that is like a newspaper language. Even Nobel Prize is available for invention or discovery. But in a newspaper, such a way it will come, even common man will understand. So that should be the starting. But though there are scientific members also, so you have to step by step give the science also. Okay? So that is the first thing. Then second concern IAC find is vague justification for species and strain. So scientists generally, we require mice because they are cheap and we can breed many in short and in my facility it is available. That's why I would like to use mice. So is this the right justification? No. And how could be the right good justification? Mice are necessary because we will be able to directly reference a large database of prior work using this mice especially for the development of the tumor type we are studying, because that study is for tumor. Correct? So you have to not copy paste. कहीं से मिल गया है. Earlier proposal, my senior students have filled it this way. I copied it and written it. So sometimes the proposal is of red and we see the justification is for mice. Sorry sir. It doesn't work. Correct? So next concern is all animals used must be clearly and scientifically justified as necessary to achieve the desired outcome. So bad example, we can use up to 100 mice for this project. Does it make any sense? So committee will outright reject if you write this way. And how the number can be justified? Whatever statistical design you have put, whatever references you have available, similar references, where they are used per group, this many number of animals. If you need more than that, you should have a rationale for it. Because in our hand, we are trying this process first time, so we are not sure how much mortality will come, how much attrition will come. Then that is why we have proposed per group 12 animals. Then committee will say, take 10. Sir, we can't take. The reason is, we are trying first time. Then committee will say, try pilot. That's fine. But like, whatever animal optimum you need it, that you have to justify. And justify it as long as possible with the references and statistics. Statistics is the best to justify the number. And here, that's how they are justified. So, in this project, wanted to have 108 mice, and he has given all blah 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 statistical justification. Correct? So, we have discussed enough. This all R's principles should come into your protocol somehow. Okay, there may not be a specific questions, but when question asked, you can also bring this into your justification. And wherever you find, you can bring in the answer of the questions, whatever asked in form, is better. That will give a confidence to committee. You are sensible investigator and you have a concern to the animal welfare, animal well-being. Okay? So now, reduction or refinement strategy. We have discussed couple of examples. One is just now we discussed pilot studies, then pain relieving drugs. You have to select wisely the pain relieving drug. I'll give you one example which we come across. Investigator has given a reference in a pain study, and then his investigator is telling him we cannot use analgesics. And when we go deep into the reference itself suggests that you can use these analgesics. So this is how the copy-paste business works. And this is how we are biased. In Google, whatever we found, positive or negative, whatever we found, we find the evidences for that. Correct? Same way here also. So don't overlook. Don't go with the notion, go with the references. Okay, exemptions are not, this is not specifically very stringent in Indian context, but those who are doing international kind of research or those who need to have an ELA accredited institute, they have to follow this. Okay, whatever written in the guide, okay, or the guideline, Indian regulations, if they are suggesting some exception to it, they have to list it out. Okay. For example, as per the guideline, I can put 3 rats into the cage. But I would like to put only 1 rat. Rat is a social animal. I need to house in social. Law says that way. But my study wants 1. So that is called an exemption. So you have to specifically, whether it is asked or not asked, you have to mention and justify. So committee will approve it. So this kind of exception you have to mention. When sedation anesthesia, people don't write completely the procedure that may cause pain or distress must be performed with appropriate sedation, analgesia or anesthesia. But people don't write it, so they have to write. So now sedation anesthesia, okay, this is the same example. Procedure detail is not mentioned. So now this is very relevant for you. Okay, what happened? PI has already written grants, so everything is available. We are also in hurry because a lot of pressure, just cut paste into it. That doesn't work. Because here the objective is different. So never try to cut and paste from the funding agency proposal into it completely. Read it, comprehend it, and put the relevant information. So here what happened, all animal procedure described in the funding proposal must be described in the protocol. No, sometimes your proposal, funding agency proposal is too wide. In that you are dividing your project, and that's where you are submitting. So whatever you want, that portion you have to include it specifically, rather than including everything into it, or excluding everything. Sometimes in a proposal, funding agency proposal, you don't write small experiment there. Okay, over the global picture. And here, you are asking specific experiment. So here you need to mention that specific experiment. So this is what we find error into. Procedure detail not sufficient. We have already discussed, like surgical techniques is not explained in detail. So just briefly, we will perform surgery and place catheter in internal carotid. After a week, the animals will be evaluated. This is how investigator will write, because they are big bosses. But no, that is not the right way. You have to write in detail. Animals will be held for feed for this many hours. Water will be provided up until anesthesia. Then this will be the anesthesia. This will be the dose. Then during procedure, this is what we will follow. 3-cycle scrub, aseptic technique also you are explaining, and then analgesia also you are explaining. So that's how the procedure should be explained in detail. This is another example. The procedures are described as follows. Description of the procedure, attach only the procedure description from the literature. People have easy thing. They will just cut paste the reference. Does it make any sense? IAC people, they are paid 4,000 rupees, and you are submitting every time 10 proposal. IAC member will click that reference and go back? No. Whose responsibility to justify that? It's the PI's responsibility. So rather than cutting pasting the link, you just say the gist of it there and then give a reference. So that will make more sense, and the project get easily approved. Post-approve operative care also you need to mention in detail how many time you are giving, what many medications, at what dose, that you have to mention. Now, monitor the plan is not sufficient. Means post-operatively your monitoring plan, or intra-operatively you are not mentioning. So include at least 3 parameters to assess the condition, respiratory rate, reflexes. So everything you have to mention in detail when your protocol is surgery. Like the people will write this way simply. Clear indices and methods to be used, monitor the level of anesthesia conditions during surgery must be included in the proposal. They don't include, they will just write this way, we will monitor. So instead you have to be specific and write. Okay, these are the best practices for a surgery. They are mentioned here. So this thing should come into things. Now, how are we doing with the time? Done? Okay. So I'll take promise 5 more minutes and then it's done. So human endpoint is very important. So I would like to explain what is the human endpoint. So in human endpoint, there is no specific questions in our Form B, unfortunately. Okay, but you have to cover, especially when you are doing the study with to give example like tumor burden kind of study. So you have a survival study and you would like to monitor the animal death. Death is a survival, your experimental endpoint. In this type of situation, this is very important. So to just give human endpoints not clear. So this is a shorter example. We will euthanize animals before they experience pain and distress. This is very vague. How it should be written? Animal condition will be monitored daily, then twice a daily during those periods of the time where the pain and distress might be possible. And we will use behavior, feeding behavior, drinking behavior, nesting behavior as an indicator of well-being. So this gives a more confidence to the committee. Okay, the investigator is going to monitor in detail and then they will take a call on euthanasia. So euthanasia, we have already talked about. There are different methods. Now euthanasia not described. So euthanasia, at the point where we have seen, you have to explain the euthanasia in detail, like with the dose, route, everything. Carbon dioxide you are using, then you have to write 30 to 70% CO2 displacement rate as per the chamber volume per minute you have to give. So this is again international thing. Those who are ELAC accredited institute, they want to give a enrichment item, and it is a must. Social behavior compliance and enrichment item providing to the social species is very important. By default, it is going. If you are not able to provide because of experimental reason, you have to justify it. harm-benefit analysis. I will not go into detail, just 2 questions. When you make your proposal, you have to see what are you going to create pain or problem with the animals that, and what are the benefits you are going to get. So you have to always weigh them and then make your proposal. So your proposal should come across this way that this is beneficial. And that's why you are going about human endpoints and experimental endpoints. Now let's understand what is the difference between them. This is very important. Plant endpoint, when animal will be euthanized and tissues harvested for the in vitro analysis, that is called experimental endpoint. You have decided my experiment after 15 days, I euthanize animal, collect this thing, that's your normal course, that is called experimental endpoint. But when you plan your experiment, something happen unplanned. Means before that endpoint comes, animal will suffer a lot. So over there, you should have that monitoring mechanism, you should have that kind of endpoints where you will be taking out the animals before your experimental endpoint, and then you euthanize the animal or you offer some other aid where the pain and distress can be relieved. Those are called a human endpoint. Am I clear? Experimental endpoint, human endpoint. So you have to follow the human endpoints in your experimentation. So animal must be humanly euthanized if the distress which cannot be. But when we discuss this experimental and human endpoint, what notions we are driving to the investigator is human endpoint is always a euthanasia. Not correct. Okay, you have to keep in mind, without euthanizing animal, also you can follow the human endpoint. Like you are giving some stress, your taste compound, which is creating problems, stop the taste compound. Reduce the amount of, like I am from Liver Institute, so we are creating model with CCL4. They start with the dosage is more, animal is really going to die kind of situation. Then they'll stop for a while. Because they want to develop a fibrosis. So they have to injure the liver for a long duration, but in between the rest, rather than animal will die, suffer, and they lose the animal, instead they will stop. That's also called a human endpoint. So they monitor, they apply this kind of human endpoint. So the point is, human endpoint is not always euthanasia. There are non-pharmacological mean or there are another mean. Temporarily stop the treatment, modify the housing system, facilitate access to food. Animal pani nahi pi raha hai, you give the water, or give food nahi raha, you give the soft, wet food. Okay, so these are also considered a better care. And point further is human endpoint. So now, final point is training and competency. Okay, this is very important. We don't want to sit in a flight where the pilot has not been thoroughly trained, correct? And pilot training is measured on the basis of how many hours he flew the flight, not since how many years he is working. Okay, it doesn't make sense. So really, training is important and you have to get the training. If training is perfect, you will be happy like this man. Okay, in the sky also you can open your door and enjoy it. So training is important. Now final reminders, very important, pay the attention. Okay, review animal facility SOPs and guidelines. So veterinarian has put an effort to take human care and your research to be have better, made some guideline in SOP. Please read through and follow it. Next is use the most current Form B template, because government keep changing the form and it's the responsibility of a veterinarian and facility they will provide you. But use the latest form. Don't use it from a colleague and take and use it. The next is submit the application as early as possible. This is a common problem with all the institute investigators submit at the last moment and they sometimes miss, hurry those things, but submit as early as possible. The next important point is do not cut and paste from the grant or somewhere. Okay? Write in your own words. Read, write. So what will happen? Committee member will feel interested to read and your proposal will be clear when they are sitting on the table. If you have written junk, they will not be. Whatever you tell, they will understand. Okay? And do not respond to, respond to a member secretary or veterinarian. This is my internal point. So you communicate well. Discuss with the veterinarian if you have questions. You interact with the veterinarian as many times wherever you feel your proposal is going to improve. Your experiment is going to improve. Okay? So that is always a good thing to do. Pre-submission review, if it's a new or complex study, if something very painful and new study never done, then it's better go discuss, have the proposal, discuss with veterinarian, get some inputs and then make the proposal. So basically simple is good. Don't try to make too much complex so nobody can understand. Though it is very hi-fi science, but it will be difficult to get it approved. And finally, the message is animal facility, veterinarian and IAC are valuable resources available for the researchers. Okay? They are not there to stop. They are there to help and facilitate. So use them. Okay? Consider them as partners. They will help you to improve experimental design to achieve highest scientific quality by using 4 R's since we are in India. So we have the 4 R's principle. Good animal welfare is equal to good science. Okay? Thank you all for your patient hearing. And finally, I would like to thank my friend Hari Krishna. Whenever I would like to give some global perspective, I always consult him. He is the only veterinarian certified with Thales D and doing his masters or completed his masters in Europe, Copenhagen. So thanks to him also for some contribution. Thank you. If any questions, if I have left some time for you.
Any question?
I'm feeling very happy. This is the point I missed. I did not cover it. Okay? And she raised the right question. So I'm really happy that things are going through. It was not a monologue. Okay? So this is called a modification of a proposal. Sometimes what happens, modifications required immediately. It's a problem because there are committees and you know the things doesn't work fast. But there is a process in place. Immediately you tell to the member secretary. And then, in certain cases, if this kind of exceptional cases are there, there's harm benefit. You are going to require to use 100 animals one more time. Okay, though it's your error, you are accepting your error. You have valid reason to include that, and this is the scientific people, they are telling it. This is the literature available, you have backed it, give it to the member secretary. If in a modification can be approved without having full IAC meeting, depending on the urgency. Okay? So that can be done. So message is, modification can be approved over an email. If you have this kind of thing justified properly, give it to member secretary and can be considered. Any other questions? Or this side it doesn't go much because there's a distance.
Okay. So, no more questions. So, I would like to thank Dr. Patel for such a wonderful talk. Your talk was really international. And I am really thankful to you that you have accepted our invitation in such a short notice. So, I am really appreciative. And I have a token of appreciation also.
It's my pleasure as well.
We will have a group photo also. Can you please come to the stage? All.